only thing we know about tonight's game in Los Angeles is that Harrison Brunick's going to play, because that's how this stuff works when you're doing the rookie load management. Beyond that, geez, morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins and Kings tonight at whatever they happen to be calling the Staples Center this week. That's a 10:08 p.m. Eastern Time face-off. And one would hope, A, that the team is recovered from having been completely jobbed a couple nights ago across town in Anaheim by the referees. And two, that Brunick will bounce back from this. There's no way, no matter what you tell the kid, especially since it has no real resonance, this idea that you need to be rested and you're 19 years old, that he'll just be able to pick it up where he was and keep going. And I'm going to repeat from yesterday's show, I've got no problem with the way the Penguins will be handling these rookies. I'm just happy that they're here and not in the Western League. But saying that I'm happy and then saying anything at all about the majority of this defensive crew, those don't really jibe. What you'll have tonight is a right-handed defense of Erik Karlsson, Chris Letang, and Brunick, of course. What you'll have on the left is exactly what's been assembled on the left. It almost doesn't even matter who you're picking. Although, I'll start with a positive word for Ryan Shea and his play of late. It's not so much the 3 assists. To me, it's that he's been sound and purposeful when the puck's been in the Pittsburgh zone. That hasn't always been the case with him. I've always recognized that he's got a little bit of an extra, I don't know if swagger's the right word for him, but he looks like he belongs in certain settings on the rink offensively, even though he's not at all some significant point producer. Conversely, when he gets in trouble and when he gets himself knocked out of the lineup, it's when he's just lost on defense. He just operates without bearings. That hasn't happened yet this season. That's at least encouraging. So you've got Shea. You've got Parker Wotherspoon, who just handed the Ducks that final power play with he called it himself, dumb flipping of the puck up into the seats, the minute and a half left. In a tie game, when you're on the road and you're facing a Western Conference team and all you need to do is eat up the clock for a minute and a half to get your team a point, but I digress. Then you've got Caleb Jones, who's the only other left-handed defenseman who's up here. To me, he played his way out of the lineup. He earned being out. And then you have 2 right-handed guys, Connor Clifton and Matt Dumba. Clifton, I thought, made himself known the other night against the Ducks. He wasn't just hitting people, he was knocking them down. That's what he does. That's who he is. It really shouldn't matter all that much if he's left or right, but I think it's fair to add that he had a stronger showing than Dumba did, and he was the one that was on the right, and Dumba was on the left, which is not at all his natural side. What would I do? Not that Dan Muse or anybody should care. I go with Shea and Letang as a top pairing. I stick somewhat reluctantly with Wotherspoon and Karlsson. And then I try to figure out who's going to help not only the Pittsburgh Penguins in this hockey game, but Brunick and his maturity and his development as a partner on that third unit. And this, I can share, is an option that's not available to Muse tonight. Because for me, that'd be Owen Pickering. For me, entering this season, and I'm not saying anything now that I wasn't saying several weeks ago, that I wasn't saying months ago, there had to be an element of progressing at the NHL level. That means these prospects getting better game after game after game. I don't care if any of Shea, Wotherspoon, Jones, Clifton, Dumba, if any of them get better. It doesn't impact this team's future at all, and I don't even know that it impacts this team's present that much, other than, flipping the puck up into the crowd. I'd have had Owen Pickering here. I'd have had him in a protected mode, like a third pairing, and I would have had him assigned to work with someone else in a similar position. That, of course, being Brunic. Now, I've mentioned they did pair them together at times in training camp and in the preseason, and it didn't go supremely well. But I'm not so sure that it should. Pickering's 21. Brunic's 19. Let him get better. Let him experience great moments like Brunic's wonderful goal the other night, down moments, whether they're individual or collective. And I know, I'm the guy who said you want the kids to be able to win these jobs. You want them to legitimately beat out the competition. I'm not going to have all of the information. I'm not going to have all of the practice footage and studies and analytics on drills that the Penguins are privy to. But I can't imagine any scenario in which somebody would look at what Pickering did through camp and through the preseason and say, wow, that's just light years away from what we saw from Parker Wotherspoon. Whatever lineup choices are being made, whether that's on the back end that I focused on today or up front, my only hope is that they're not being made because way too many guys were signed to way too many NHL contracts. That doesn't interest me. Holding on to them and hoping that they can be parlayed into a, fifth round pick or something, that doesn't interest me. Seeing the team get better, game by game by game, at the Pittsburgh level, that interests me. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Michael, who asks, DK, if Mario regained control of the Penguins, how big of a monkey wrench do you think he would put into Kyle Dubas's grand plan? Normally I kind of cringe at hypothetical questions. There's so much real stuff, especially this time of year, to be talking about. But I'm not going to lie to you here. I thought about this myself, and I've actually asked about it, meaning from people who might have a better concept of that than I would. And the best that I can do is share from my own experience in covering Mario's tenure as a controlling owner. He and Ron Burkle shared that role, is that when they put somebody in charge, they put them in charge. When they were employing Ray Shero, Ray ran hockey ops. When Jim Rutherford came along, Rutherford ran hockey ops. They, both Mario and Ron, would ask to be consulted, I guess is one way of putting it. They wanted to be in on the conversation. They didn't want to find out stuff from other places. They didn't want there to be surprises. So let's say, for example, Jim trades Carl Hagelin at quite literally 3 a.m. while on a charter flight. Everybody's already known about it beforehand. Jim has made sure to send that up the flagpole, as the term goes. Now, when Mario and Ron saw something that they didn't like, as was the case with Dan Bylsma's final year here, and they saw that Ray was not going to fire Dan, they then exerted their authority. I would say that's the fairest possible description of Mario's ownership or leadership style when it came to the front office. So based on that, based on reality, based on his own history, I would say that Mario would come in and enthusiastically work with Dubas and say, hey, what's going on here? Like what you've done with this. Like what I see of these kids. Nice job on the Ben Kindle pick, 11th overall. That's certainly the enthusiasm with which I witnessed Mario greeting these kids as they were introduced to him the other night. None of that. I'm going to keep saying this. None of what happened at the home opener was an accident. The Penguins didn't just randomly choose 3 youngsters to meet 66, the third, of course, being injured, Rutger McGroarty. means he was legit impressed. Now, that said, I also know that there are people in the FOM circle. I don't know if that term still resonates with anybody in the local hockey community, but the Friends of Mario circle, who are of the mind that when you have Sidney Crosby, you act accordingly. And I would venture to speculate, and this is as far as I'll go to try to keep this responsible, that if Mario was just put in charge of everything tomorrow, the one thing you could count on would be that this $11 million in cap space would be, boom, gone just like that. And that it would be spent on a left-handed defenseman who can help out now. And I'd say, and have said, in support of that concept, that there's very, very, very few reasons to not do that. But anybody who thinks that 66 would just waltz into the office and say, hey, all of you, you're all out of here. This plan is so stupid and advanced analytics are dumb. And no, it wouldn't be anything at all draconian. And if it was going to be something like that, he sure as heck wouldn't have had the photo op with the kids, right? At his request, I should add. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.